Good morning, everyone. This is Chetan. We'll be starting the podcast and the webcast in about a minute. We'll just get all the attendees to settle in. Okay, let's get started. We just do a quick polls just to make sure we can, you all can hear me and see my screen. So let's do the first poll on my listening. Let me know if you can hear me. There'll be a poll on your screen. Just let me know if you can hear my voice. Okay, so about 33% vote. If you cannot see the poll as well as cannot hear the voice, we'll be posting this webcast online. You can definitely come back later and watch the video clips. And if you have any questions, there'll be an email address somewhere, I'm pretty sure, to get back to us. So I'll close this poll. We have 100% voted now. Fantastic. So everyone can hear my voice, looks like. Okay. So I'll close this poll. We'll go to the next poll. Let me know if you can see my screen. That's the next poll. You should see a slide up there which says Basic Level 101, Pre-construction, Visualization, and its benefits. So I see there are few attendees that have no listed. So if you don't see the screen, I think this webinar series, which is by Citrix, has a launch button, or a run button. So when you start the webinar, you'll see something that will tell you to install something or launch something. You need to do that. If you don't do that, it won't let you see my screen. So if you're not done, just re-click on the link. There should be a pop-up that will come up and it'll say launch, run, something along those lines, and you hit it and it will get going. Again, if you cannot get to my screen, we'll be posting the webcast in a week, and you can come back and watch it on the website. So I'll close this poll. We can go to the next level. It's going to be a loaded webinar today, so we'll try to make it quick. The most important part basically is I want to focus more on pre-construction and not a lot on visualization. I think you'll easily see how visualization is quickly becoming a basic technique for the pre-construction services. Okay, so pre-construction services will get into details of what it means and what are the basic requirements and expectations. So before we get into that, just quickly go over what NIBT is. So NIBT stands for National Institute of Building Technology. We all know that by now. And the concept is really simple. I think the idea of construction technology in coming generations is going to be playing a very important role in the whole industry and in educational platforms and in career developments. And it has become not a feature, it has become a necessity to understand the concept, the tools that are evolving around construction management, because it is all integrated these days. There are very efficient techniques, there are very efficient tools that are becoming much more stronger, that are becoming much more prominent in the industry. So I've been using these tools for 10 years now through construction. I've been playing many roles, so I can see how this vision is going to be helpful coming in India, where we're just starting to pick up some of the technologies. The vision is very clear. It's obviously the construction technology, the management curriculum developed around construction technology and tools, but don't get distracted when I say tools. It's not a software. There are tools and techniques of how to conduct negotiations and things along those lines, which don't necessarily need the software, but the skill sets that a person has to develop. So those are the curriculums that we're trying to put at NIBT. The idea is to develop more professionals and not more skilled people. The idea is to have professionals. Idea is to have more entrepreneurs. So the curriculum is more making an individual more independent. That's the goal of NIBT with construction management focus. A little bit background about me. Basically run a company BIM engineering US, in America for the last 4 years now. It was a startup with getting some traction. I won't get into my resume a lot. We'll get focused on the agenda for today because we have about, I think, 30 slides that we have to cover in 20 minutes. The idea is just to understand what pre-construction is. So this is not a detailed course. It's very high level, basic level, 101 level curriculum course where if you don't know what pre-construction is and you don't know where and what techniques it is, so if you don't know anything and someone asks you in the field of construction what pre-construction is, these are the things that you tell them. Okay, so the agenda for today is just basically to understand what pre-construction is, what the deliverables and objectives of each pre-construction process or deliverable is. There are 4 piers. That's how I look at it. There are 4 piers for good pre-construction practices. Okay, as long as you follow those 4 piers, your pre-construction deliverables will be fantastic. And then understanding each pier is the goal of today's presentation. So let's keep going. So let's understand what pre-construction is quickly. And as I said earlier, visualization, you can see it says visualization, so don't get distracted by 3Ds and everything else. I think, keep it away, but just clear up your brain. And we're going to talk about pre-construction. Pre-construction basically means, and you can read this definition that people practice and talk about, but the basic concept of pre-construction is anything during bidding phase, right? It's pre-qualifications. So if a client comes to you and says, I have shortlisted 4 contractors, 4 designers, 4 engineers, whatever it may be, and you are one of them, let us know how you can help us. Give us your numbers, right? Pricing is always one of it. You always want to give your numbers, but the clients are not necessarily looking for numbers. They want to see, okay, who your team is. How are you going to perform the job? How are you going to build my project? How are you going to design my project? There's so many parameters that are involved in pre-construction package, okay? And then when you do that kind of package, and if you get hired, it's still pre-construction. So anything that is prior to actually physically constructing is all pre-construction. So planning of materials, planning of procurement, planning of how to bring in material, planning of what schedules to run, and things like that. It's all part of pre-construction. It's planning. It's really the full picture: planning, designing, logistics, whatever you can call it. Anything that is prior to construction, anything is pre-construction. Okay, and it's becoming a huge deal because a lot of general contractors, or almost all of them, at least in the United States, are offering these pre-construction services at a separate package, right? Because the client will hire these pre-construction services, they'll design the project, they'll make sure it's more cost efficient, the buildings are designed properly, in conjunction with designers, architects, engineers, contractors, and put everyone together, and they'll just do pre-construction service package. Once the pre-construction service package is complete, which means the drawings are done, now it's time to go and build, then they'll go back out and then they'll rehire a contractor. See how it is different? They don't go and hire a contractor directly. First they hire a contractor to run a pre-construction process. Once the pre-construction process is, they might hire the same or some other contractor to go perform the work. Okay, that's why it kept becoming distinctly different, and that has been the practice more and more that I see. It is typically the process where you have a design build setup. Sometimes you have IPD, which is integrated project delivery setup. So what kind of your contract deliverables are depends on how strong the pre-construction process becomes. We'll get into the pre-construction process, and here is a quick another definition of this is really critical. So a couple of things I've highlighted here is it is a modern practice. I was saying it was not, you won't have seen it about 10 years back. It is becoming much more prominent in maybe a decade, I would say. It's considered to be part of the construction project management. So in the construction project management, if nowadays they're not teaching how to handle pre-construction, they're giving you only half of what you need in today's market. Pre-construction is extremely important as a management process to be learned during the construction management program. Okay, so you can see it is an overall planning. You can see here that it's an overall planning tool, and it starts from inception. You have to get involved with designers. You have to get involved in what materials to procure, which are quicker, faster. So those are the things that you get involved in pre-construction phase. Okay. So going to the next slide. So what is pre-construction planning? for a project? Like, what is it like? What is an actual deliverable? We mentioned about it. What is an objective? What is a deliverable? It basically includes all these things. It has to include all these things, right? So it needs numbers, and we typically say, okay, pre-construction means I have to give a number to win a job. No, not necessarily. I mean, that's just one part of how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. About one of the 13 parts. So that's not a lot, right? So that's basically where the pre-construction is going, and the clients are giving these services to win a project. So if you're not doing this, or your organization is not following up with the pre-construction process, owners want it. They might not know about it, but once you start giving it, I promise you, they'll look at your companies, your organizations, you yourself as a value add company. And they'd rather hire you because you're providing all these services and making sure the project is successful, not after the fact, not finding issues after the fact, right? So what we're going to do today is trying to understand each one of these objectives or deliverables of a pre-construction planning process. Estimation, how to integrate a design team and a construction team together, budget management, procurement strategies, cash flow forecasting, constructability reviews, risk analysis, risk management, site logistics planning, integrated project schedules, life cycle cost analysis, then you have sustainability lead planning if you have that on your project, as-built analysis, and visual mock-ups to explain few things. So we'll get into very high level basic of all these points today. I mean, if you have to teach a course, each one of this could be a 2-hour course in itself because they're so detailed oriented. So the idea of today's webcast is not to get into each one of them in details. It's really quickly help you understand that these are the 13 points that you have to focus, and as long as you do these 13 points, your pre-construction planning will be successful. So let's understand the 4 piers. And the 13 points I just explained earlier are very well divided into these 4 categories. Okay, finance management, constructability management, and logistics management, right? And for some reason, this whole data management is becoming a very powerful entity. It was not about even 5 years back or 7 years back, but I'm seeing this data management tool becoming much and much more active from owners' expectation standpoint. They want this owners' expectations for the clients and the contractors to manage the data. And we'll get into that, what it means. There was a BIM forum, the International BIM Forum, that happened last week in San Diego, and I was there, and it was surprising to see how much the whole technology and the forum and the constructability side of it is more owner focused. Owners are coming in and they said, we want this, we want data management, we want these kind of things, because we are the people, after you finish constructing, end up building the managing the project. So we want all the data sets so we can manage our projects better. So what basically means is we'll get into each one of these topics and see what they mean in detail, right? So let's talk about finance management, right? So finance management is very simple. It's something we're talking about cost, right? But cost and a construction project. So estimation is kind of the bottom low-hanging fruit, that if you're not doing estimation, I mean, there is no way you can win a project. At the bare minimum, you have to do estimation and give your numbers on a project. So there are significant tools, and there is no way in a modern market that you are doing estimations from drawings without doing digital takeoffs. I mean, digital takeoffs are bare bone necessity these days because they're much more reliable. You can tell what was bid on and what is there and what is not. So I think these digital takeoff management tools are becoming more and more prominent. The next, so you have finance management, which is 4D. So this gets into 4D scheduling a little bit, right? And 4D scheduling gets into more of, I hear some voice. Sorry about that, was my phone. All right, okay, so 4D gets very complicated subject, and it is getting a very evolving. And I think last 5 years I've been to so many technology forums and construction forums that really I used to see 4D but just as a marketing sell, but these days people are practicing a lot, and there's so much things to learn about 4D, because it really connects your schedule and scheduling and the models together. The idea of this courses or this webcast is not to get into the BIM. The idea is to understand what tools are there to manage finances and what clients, owners, and people are using to manage their cash flow. You know, finance management with the 4D model or 5D model, however you want to look at it. 5D is really where the cost gets added and scheduled. But these two in junction are very important, because you can run your cash flow analysis and show a banker, show an owner and says, listen, this is how we're going to build your building, and look at how the building gets built and how much we're billing you every month and how much work is done. Okay, so they can see a visual representation of how the project gets built and how the money is spent on a project. Okay, they might say, no, I don't want this phase to be done here. I don't have this much cash up front. Can you push this forward? So these kind of conversations are happening because clients are actually seeing a visual representation of their buildings in conjunction with schedule and cost. Okay, so it's not a theory anymore. It is becoming more and more a used tool. We did a 4D specific webcast last week, so if you are interested in getting into more 4D, please use that. You see that webcast. Second part of this is 5D. This is what I was talking about, 5D, right? This is basically where each element, and I used to do this way back, at least 12 years back. There was a product called D-Profile I used, and basically the idea is to build your packages. You know, it included all the labor forecast. It could change from which locations you're located, the labor cost, the availability of labor. And you can put all those modules and connect those modules to your building, so you can actually see based on your location, because based on what elements and material providing on the building, what the cost is. And the conversations at that point where a client would see an actual rendering of a building, and they would see the cost, and each element was divided in the cost. And now client were not looking at the numbers, they're looking at the building, and they're saying, what if we change this windows? If you have 50% fenestration, what if we change it to 60% penetration? What if we change to 40%? And you could go in and change those penetrations, and the cost would change. And the client would say, okay, I like that, I like the cost, I like the building, lock it in, let's go and build it. So it's very strong tool from owner's client's perspective, because if you're winning a client, if your competitor goes in and shows this with cost analysis, the client is going to prefer your company or their company before you, because there is just a better tool. They can understand the contractors are making a legitimate effort to explain the owners how the project should run. The next thing is very flat out project. You have a Primavera P6, Sure Track, you call it MSP Microsoft project. All these projects have a 2D blank sheet where you can connect cost to a schedule, and that's perfectly fine. Owners are fine with that, as long as there are tools there that you're using to help a client understand how the cash flow is happening through the project based on time. They're more than happy. Visualization goes to a next degree, but these are fine, right? Finance management. So this is extremely important, right? Before and after analysis. What happens is during the design process, things don't stay the same. So you might have a budget that you give to the client, but by the time the designing is done and engineering is done, the costs are completely different. And then guess what? The client is surprised. Then he has to run to get additional capital. There is frustration. There's a lot of things. There's no need for it. I think continued cost analysis is very important from a finance manager. If you are really managing a project as a project manager or contract manager, you need to understand the finance manager. That is a key to project success. If you're not managing it as a process and you're just surprising the client, it's not a good practice. So when you move a wall, or you add a wall, or you add a bathroom, I think there has to be an updated forecast schedule, a cash flow schedule, a budget schedule, whatever you want to call it, to the client every week, every bi-weekly, so they understand what changes are happening in the design. What was their intent before and what has it happened? Because not necessarily every client is detailed into a design. It understands the design. They're very high level. So they're not into the mix and the details of, or the weeds of the detail analysis. So it's very important to help the client understand the cash flow and the change management, how the costs are changing because of the design changes, engineering changes, or whatever it is. Laser scanning is becoming a huge tool. I think I used to see one project of 100 that was getting scanned. Now I see 15, 20 projects out of the 100 projects that get scanned. The point of scanning is basically to look at as-built analysis, right? In order to build, especially if it's a brand new building, of course, no problem. But if you're going in retrofitting something, if you're going in and tearing something down and renovating something, it's important to understand what is there to the nth inch. What it does is gives you designers, your contractors, a better tool to go in and fit things based on as-built. So you're not going in as a surprise, and when you start going into construction, hey, surprise, surprise, this column is not there, this beam is not there. There are no surprises. Scanning is the most important. It has become very cost effective these days. It used to be very expensive. It has become very cost effective, at least in the United States. So more and more clients are using it. The theory is you go and you create a map tool of every single building that you are trying to do as-built of, or you're trying to go in and retrofit something. You take that data, you create into a model, or you can leave it as a point cloud model. And then what you do is when you start designing, you know exactly what is there because you already scanned it. So you know exactly what is there, and you can start connecting to those existing conditions versus coming with a blank slate or going with your measuring tape and trying to measure every time you go there, take photographs. So scanning gives you dimensions. It is precise. It is a 3D exact measurement. So if you take a measurement in a scan model, it is exactly the way the reality is. So the photograph and measurement might take you a month to document a project, and you will still get probably 50% of the data. Scanning gives in 2 days versus a month, will give you 100% accurate data. So that's how fast it is and that's how accurate it is. Very important tool. I think most of the clients, when they do a retrofit project these days, they say, we want scanners. The other part of financial management is life cost analysis or sustainability or performance of the building that clients are asking the contractors or designers to do. The point being that tools, they know that there are tools that Revit, Archicad, and other platforms offer that do analysis of the structural integrity, they do analysis of their energy performance on electric loads and things like that. And they're saying, I need to do that. If there are tools available, then I want everyone to use it because I want the best performing building at most efficient cost. So I don't want any wasted resources, which just makes sense, right? If you don't want any wasted resources, not from sustainability standpoint, not from cost standpoint, not from resource standpoint. So there is no brainer. So if there are tools available, we have to use them, and owners are demanding them more and more, especially when money is related to it. Clients will say, I want to see it. I want to see if my energy loads are. And when you start showing them energy loads that are by far into red zones, they'll say, wait a minute, design it again. I want to see something that is more efficient, right? And that's how clients, because they have to maintain the building in a life cycle. So life cycle cost analysis is becoming very, very important for all the clients who end up managing the building for the next 100 years. So that's the point I'm trying to make there. Basically, this is a summary of finance management, right? So if you can go through the slides, and we'll be putting together slides and we can go through this presentation again. So let's go to the next subject, which is constructability management. So remember 3 piers. We took the first pier of pre-construction, what it needs from finance perspective. Now we're getting into constructability management. So constructability management, basic, low-hanging fruit, do the clash detection. If you're not doing the 3D model, you're not understanding the issues and clashes up front. If we are going to go in the construction field and understand these issues after the fact, too late. You are wasting time, you're wasting resources, and it's very inefficient to manage and fix those issues in the construction field. No, we don't have time for that. And especially when there are tools to do it before, clients will be looking at you as if you have no idea what you're doing, because why didn't you not look at it before? Why did you not catch it before? Why are we talking about it now? Those are the questions clients will ask you. And you will be, if you look at the computer say, listen, these are the tools we use. You don't even have to worry about going to the construction field and finding issues, you will find it before you build. Guess what? Who the client is going to pick? VR, right? This is becoming a very upcoming tool. Virtual reality, augmented reality is one of them. The idea is basically you can run the client and facilities management people or maintenance people, that you can run them through the plants. You can build the plants in the model and say, this is how we're going to build it. Let them run through the plants with these classes. And at the end, what they'll do is they'll tell you how to move things and where they want things. So the idea is before you build it, you rectify everything from maintenance standpoint, for clearance standpoint, for performance standpoint. You can do so many things with visualization. Listen, it's easy to move a pixel than to move a brick. It's very cheap, very easy, more efficient. So rather move a pixel, right? So that's virtual reality. Virtual mockups are probably where we start getting into VDC. And I think VDC is really the core of BIM or any constructability process, which is virtual design and construction. Virtual design and construction is you see a critical element, waterproofing, or a logistic planning. And what general contractors are doing is they might not do the full model. They might show a client how they want to develop their penetration, how they're doing their waterproofing. So these are the specific details, and these tools are given to the teams in the field. And guess what? They don't make mistakes, because they have a real representation of which step 1, step 2, step 3, what goes in first, what goes second, everything laid down for them. So virtual mockups are becoming very, very useful tool for general contractors to win projects. They'll go in and look at the critical site analysis. They'll do a site analysis and they say, listen, this is site analysis, this is how we want to do, and here's the virtual mockup of how we intend to do things. So it becomes very extensive. Constructability management from a 4D perspective, again big, because constructability, how are you going to build my building, is linked to the schedule and the 3D objects. We know how you're building, which is how you're phasing the project and what elements are you building when, what material you're building it. Is there any safety issues? Are there any logistic issues? What is the quickest way to build it? Everything boils down to 4D logistics planning. Okay, you might not listen. You don't have to follow the model. The concept is you have to understand, visualize the building, and represent the building, in a 4D format. And if you can understand it, it's very difficult for the clients to understand it. That's why tools are coming in handy now, because clients are not with you, 7 days a week working on the project, understanding the logistics. That's your job, right? As a contractor, it becomes your job. So they don't necessarily see it through the same eyes that you see. So it's important to put a platform there, and that's how the tools are coming. There's the softwares are coming where that platform is put in place, where everyone is on the same page now. It's all talking the same language. Okay, look at this. This is extremely important, but becoming handy. It's basically managed. It's called lean processes. Okay, these are called lean processes. There is a lean institute, and there's a lean institute basically that does 2 analysis. So we have a schedule. Let's say we have a 2-year project and we put a schedule together. That's not enough. They're saying that's not enough. If the project schedule is that long, it's very difficult to understand what is happening in 2 weeks and monitor and analysis. So the lean institute's requirements are, they come into very detailed focus, and they call it what is push planning, pull planning, and things like that. Today's course is not about it, but that's what it is. Literally you have sticky notes that are put on the wall. You understand how the project is built in the next 3 weeks. You pull it back, you push it forward. Those are the techniques that are used. Remember, I was telling you, it's not about software all the time. The tools doesn't mean software. The tools could be a post-it that you stick on a wall and plan the project. And these tools are becoming extreme. I mean, they're building billions and billions of dollars worth of hospitals and stadiums and things like that using these techniques. So you can go online and look at lean practices, and we'll be bringing those lean practice curriculums in our courses coming forward. And the next point is, again, I was talking point cloud, right? Constructability and point cloud. The first one is we talked about as built. This line really represents what the reality is. So if you're constructing it, right? So what is happening is there are products out there that are scanning every day. So you construct something, after it is built, you go and scan it. and then you come back and look at what has been done in conjunction to what it was supposed to be. So you have a model that was supposed to be built. But let's say the column moves by 2 inches, the bus duct moves, the duct moves, the pipe moves, whatever, anything moves, the scanning catches it. And it's going to alert you in 2 ways. Say, hey, the column moved, what do we do? Is that okay, or do we need to rectify the issues before it becomes an issue? Because right now no one even knows it's an issue. The second would be, if someone, let's say there's a duct or a plumbing system or anything, a bus duct, electrical systems in place where they're not supposed to be, if someone accidentally installed it, before the next trade goes in and creates a problem and it becomes a crisis on the field, this point cloud will tell you, by the way, this person is not where he's supposed to be. So we need to fix it before the sprinkler person comes in and he starts to put a pipe where he's supposed to, and they won't meet and there will be a clash. So these are the techniques that are using, especially on complicated projects where hospitals and extensive critical facilities are involved. The point being, we don't have time to waste. Time is money, and that's why they're doing this point cloud analysis to do a pre-analysis of what can go wrong in the future. So these tools are coming very handy. As a matter of fact, they're literally coming handy like last 2 years. So it's very tool. The reason being, there used to be one manufacturer who did, or two manufacturers who did scanning. Now there are like 10, 20 manufacturers of the scannable system. So the cost has gone down and everyone wants to be part of this. Also the technologies have grown. So if it was taking 5 hours to run a scan, now it's taking 20 minutes. So technologies have grown up. So that's why it is becoming much and much of a prominent tool these days. So this is a summary of constructability management, and these are the tools that you need in your pre-construction package, because owner needs to know how are you making sure there are no issues up front. How are you making sure that we, as a client, maintaining the process through the life cycle is better? How do you make sure that critical details are going to be handled when the construction happens? How are you going to manage our schedule? How are you going to make sure what you plan is what is going to be built? And how are you going to make sure the logistics is the most efficient? So these are the construction management, constructability management tools that look at constructability of a project. Not from a finance angle, not from a logistics angle, from a constructability angle, right? So let's go to the logistics angle now. Same concept here, right? So we have clash detection. So logistic angle is basically looking at who goes first, who goes next, what needs to happen. Do we need penetrations in the beam so that the pipes can stay there? Those are logistics planning, right? So it could come like, they can come parallel with the constructability. You can put it there, they're right in between. It's logistics, but sometimes becomes constructability also. So this tool right fits in between the two. So I won't get into the tool. I think you understand what the tools and how it's used, but it's used extensively also for logistics planning. Like subcontractors will go and say, hey, tell me how I'm supposed to do this. And then they'll look at the 3D and they'll go back into the construction job site and then go and start constructing it. Then we have virtual. I remember I told about augmented reality. It's not virtual reality, it's augmented reality. Augmented reality is where you see the reality in front of you with the camera in focus. Virtual reality is just, you just have a camera, you don't see the reality. That's the big difference between the two. So what augmented reality does is you can see a blank slide, right? So this is project under construction, but when you look at the camera, you can see how it will look after it is done. Here's a staircase. There's no staircase here in the tool. You can see that, and this person is trying to understand if I installed everything correctly. So he goes in there, he looks at the cameras, and this staircase comes in, and then he looks at the reality and says, oh, by the way, looks like there's a pipe here that was not supposed to be. Let me move it because this staircase is going to be in conflict with the light pipe. So these are the visualization tools, but we really cannot look at the visualization tools. I mean, construction is visual, so we cannot think visual as completely different tool than construction. It has to be like that. So it's not a feature or an add-on. It is the basic necessity to understand the geometry and the objects of how they're going to be built before you build them. So that's a huge tool, logistics plan that everyone is using these days. There's some downfalls to it. The tools which are mobile devices or things like that don't necessarily have the juice it takes to manage larger models. So smarter people would make smaller models and play whatever they want, because at the time you're looking at maybe a 200 square feet or 300 square feet of area in a given day. So that's the tool. Talk about 4D logistics. 4D comes in every single, so you can see how 4D is becoming an efficient tool. It is part of every single process: finance, constructability, logistics. You can manage a logistics job. You can see how the buses and the trucks are coming in to load the material, deliver the material, how they are going to go out, what time, and at a given time, what are you installing, so that if you don't have to schedule your deliveries, you can cancel your deliveries. So you can do a lot of workflow analysis around logistics. Then this is the important tool. Remember, I told about the mapping and 3D point cloud. Logistic plans are going into your drones now, right? So I think this year and 2 years back, we never thought about having drones on a mapping site. There used to be, but very few people, very expensive. Now there are at least 10 products. I was looking at it yesterday, at least 10 products that have drones, about $3,000 to $4,000 a pop. I'm not sure the cost of service and things like that, but you can literally get them really cheap from construction standpoint if you have a bigger portfolio, bigger, larger job, and you can scan this field. And what it does, it takes the mapping of the image, how it looks, it takes the grading analysis and actually puts a cloud, real cloud of how the grade is. And what civil engineers are doing is they'll go in and take this point cloud and they'll create analysis of how much they're cutting, how much they are filling, and based on cutting and filling, what is left over, and where will they put the leftover material. Then they have to find some other spots to put that material. What kind of material is coming out? Is it high grade? Are there any trees involved? Things like that. So just by running a scan, it literally takes 4 hours to run a large a footprint of a green field where you're developing, and you can do a scan. This helps you manage your stream waters, your storm water management, your percolation. You get into so many statistics. You can understand where your services are coming in and where are you putting your washing racks, where are you putting your trailers and things like that. So this tool is becoming much and much popular. The only thing is you can only fly drones on a pretty large area. You cannot fly them through the buildings. So the scanners I showed earlier are more used in interior of the buildings, where the drones are used even for the building. So if you're looking at exterior of the building and you fly a drone around, it will map the building every day and will show video analysis of how the building was actually built in point cloud. So drones are used for exteriors mostly and a site logistics mapping. Okay, excellent tool. Here's another tool. This is completely, so it's done in SketchUp. Simple tools like this explain clients if they have a big facility. Sometimes they have a facility that is existing and they're running on top of that facility. They're running and adding a facility, which means they have to maintain their customers, traffic of customers while they build a new facility. It's very important for them to understand, okay, show me how my clients are coming in. What are you doing? Where are you're locating the cranes, and how many parking spots are available for me to come, and what will be the traffic flow how my clients are going to come in, right? So this blue line will show how the traffic moves. So they understand from a safety standpoint, is it safe for their clients, because the clients don't necessarily know what you're doing, and they're not ready for it. So they're surprised and accidents can happen, and they can lose the customers, right? They can lose. So basically, going back, here is a summary of how I would see 4 piers and each deliverable around those 4 piers. And see, data management is in the top, and we'll talk about data management in brief later, but we'll go into the details in a minute. So each item is located according to their roles in the pier, right? These are your 13 items and how they're assigned to the pier. Data is anything and everything, right? Anything and everything. The schedule is the data, the material is data, the cost is a data, everything is a data. And now we have 3D, 4D, 5D, all this data has to be managed in a very logical manner. And it's very difficult for any one individual to understand the data. So what ends up happening is you get a data management team that sits at the center and manages the data. That's really the goal of this data management, which is completely a new revolution entity or career path that people are approaching, which are just managing the data. That is coming on very strongly these days. So thank you very much. I think it was a very productive webcast from my standpoint. I think what I wanted to show, what I wanted to share from my experience, I think it was very well in a short niche. I was able to put something together that I wanted to share. I hope you liked it. I think we'll continue doing more detailed curriculums around every single subject that we discussed today. So thank you for joining us and hope to see you again.